Meet me on the softer side. Meet me on the softer side. Softer side of your heart.
Hi there, and welcome to the Skylight Books author reading series. You can find out about this and all of our other author events at www.skylightbooks.com, where you can also browse our inventory as well as order books online. You can also follow us on Twitter or even be our friend at facebook.com. If you'd like to talk to a real person, we can be reached at 323-660-1175. And don't forget, Skylight Books depends on listeners like you to help support us. So whether you're in our neighborhood or browsing online, buy a book or two to help ensure that we'll be around for a long, long time. Thanks and enjoy.
So, I know Emma's a bookseller too, right? So, I know she feels exactly the way I do. Emma Straub is the author of the novella Flyover State. Her stories and essays have been published by the Paris Review, Barrel House, the St. Anne's Review, Cousin Corinne's Reminder, the Elle Magazine, and so many other journals. So many. She lives in Brooklyn, New York with her husband. Are your husband here? Oh, what's your name? Mike. I just want to say, I've been doing book events for 10 years, really, for 10 years. And what happens is the spouse is usually like sort of, you can tell that it's a spouse because while everybody's like watching the reader, the spouse is sort of looking like that, So I just want to, because, they've seen this, they're so supportive, just always want to say.
It's like my 25th.
This is his 25th.
Since January.
25th reading, so doing a great job. So I always want to applaud the spouse. All right. Really. Okay. So, and I might be visiting New York since gay marriage got legalized there. So I really want to. Right, exactly. What I loved about meeting Emma for the very first time is that even though I met her for the very first time, I felt like we've been friends for years and years and years. She's just like, woo, it was like, wow. It's like we can talk so much about so many things. And she hasn't told me this, but I can feel that tonight she will read the very best she's ever read in her entire life. She will read the very best. So, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Emma Straub.
I can try. I'll try. Whew. Okay, so I'm going to read. Thank you, first of all, for coming, everyone. Everyone in Los Angeles is so good looking and smart and wonderful, and I really love it here. Mike and I went to. We were talking to someone yesterday, and he looked at us, and he was like, are you having a good time here? And he looked at us, and he said, oh no, I can see it in your eyes. You're drinking the water. I want to stay. But thank you so much to Skylight for having me. I love it here. I think of Skylight almost every single day, because I bought the Tamara Shopson 5-year diary here, and I dutifully, Eden LaPucky has one too, and I dutifully write down the events of the day in it every single day, and so I always think of Skylight. I'm going to read two things. I'm going to read one depressing thing and then one funny thing. Depressing first, right?
Okay, yeah.
Because then I'll lift you back up. Okay. So this is the shortest story in the collection. It's called Orient Point. And there is a geographical error in here, but you guys live in California, so it doesn't even matter. Okay. Orient Point. It was August, and the car's air conditioning was broken. That was part of the problem. John believed in waiting to see if appliances fixed themselves, if some benign magic from the greater universe would intervene. And so there we were, John in front and me in the back with the baby, all the windows down, sweat making the backs of our thighs stick to the seats. It would take 3 hours to get to his parents' house on the very tip of the North Fork of Long Island, and the open windows only helped when we were moving quickly, which wasn't often the case. John kept looking at us in the rearview mirror. No, not at us, at Eve. Is she okay? He asked. Eve was too small to face forward, and so he could only see the car seat itself in the rearview mirror. She was damp with sweat, just like us, her tiny brown wisps of hair plastered to her forehead. She's fine, I said, just hot. On cue, the baby whimpered. Eve was almost a year old and had mastered a few consistent words, all of which sounded like a drunk talking in his sleep. Sounds like she's hungry, John said. He narrowed his eyes at me. Is she hungry? She's fine, I said. Even thinking about breastfeeding made my body spring into action. I could feel the internal valves open. She would eat soon enough, whether she was hungry or not. John had made sure of it. Otherwise, we'd arrive at his parents' house, John and Eve slick with sweat, me with sweat and tacky milk. The day after our wedding, my parents told me they loved John. They said it together at the kitchen table. I was already 5 months pregnant. He's a good man, my father said, a good man. We're very happy for you, said my mother. No one thought I would ever get married, not to somebody as clean as John, as fancy. That's what they were really saying, that I'd waddled backwards into it like a scuba diver plopping off the back of a boat. That he wouldn't have married me otherwise, and what luck. And they were right. Eve had 3 cousins already on her father's side, slim, long children all. There were family outings to the beach, camping trips. They sang songs and did the puzzle. My parents didn't close the door when they used the bathroom, and as far as I knew, no one in John's family had ever even had to go. Everyone loves bathroom jokes, always. Eve looked like me, with dark features and a cloudy expression. She often cried when faced with cheery strangers at the grocery store, a trait I admired. She was an excellent screamer. In a few weeks, she would be a year old. I'd always hated it when parents counted in months the same way that pregnant women counted in weeks, as though their time was too precious to use such large units of measure. John would have described Eve's age in days if he could count that high. I am too hot to breathe, I said. We were only 40 minutes. Come on in. Sorry, no pressure. We were only 40 minutes out of the city, but the concrete landscape had already relaxed into long, uninterrupted stretches of trees. John didn't respond, instead just stared at the road in front of him. We zoomed by the huddled body of a dead deer on the median, and then another. John seemed not to notice. There was a beach an hour from Orient, one John's parents never went to because people were always nude there. We passed the first sign for it on the road, and I smacked the back of John's seat. Turn here, I said, as though it had been our plan all along. Turn here, turn here, turn here. The thought of the water, still cold in August, made my mouth begin to salivate with relief. He did as he was told. Though he gamely pretended that his parents liked me, John was never in a rush to get me to their house as white and clean as a furniture showroom. The minute I stepped inside, I could feel the whole family collectively hold their breath. Our bathing suits were wadded in somewhere in the duffel bag in the trunk, but when we got out of the car and I'd unhooked Eve from her seat, the breeze from the ocean felt too good on my skin to wait another minute. Forget it. Just come on. The path from the small parking lot to the beach itself was a narrow strip of sand carved out of tall seagrass, waving pussy willows that reached my shoulders. The hot sand poured through the gaps of my flip-flops and stung my toes. Eve made a noise like a wet rag being wrung out, the kind of noise that was 90% saliva. John was a yard behind us, his empty hands already clutching at the anxiety of arriving at a beach in his clothes without a towel. Hold her for a sec, I said, and passed John the baby. I pulled off my tank top and shorts in less than a minute, peeling the damp cotton of my underwear off too, and dropped all my clothes into a pile on the sand. John stared at me as if I'd grown a third breast. Eve nestled into his chest like a barnacle. Okay, I said, I'm going in. And then I walked into the water, the icy Atlantic lapping at my ankles. One by one, I felt each of my blood vessels constrict until my body was half as big as it had been before. I walked until the water came up to my belly button and turned around. John and Eve hadn't moved. They stood static, father and daughter, rock and barnacle, as separate from me as the Atlantic from the Pacific. John and I weren't supposed to have gotten married. We weren't even supposed to have liked each other. We were supposed to have had sex a few times, always high or drunk or both, and then to sheepishly forget each other's names. I would have. There had been possible exits before, choices he'd ignored, but it was still early enough to escape without permanent damage. But it wasn't the two of us that didn't fit, me and Eve. It was only me. John could take Eve and she would be one of them, as comfortable in that pristine White House as he was. She would never spill, never stumble. John would take her. Was it strange that I knew so clearly that he would be the one she clung to? She would see me on holidays, on weekends, and then hardly at all, until she only saw my young face in her baby pictures and recognized the scowl her father had taught her to discard. Everyone would be better off. John would be relieved. His parents would be quietly ecstatic and never say my name again. I smiled at him from the water before sinking to my knees and letting the cold water rise over my collarbones, over my ears, over my head. Thank you. I know that's bleak. I know it's bleak. It's all right. We're coming back up. For those of you who are standing, there are lots of chairs if you want to sit. Fill the front. Fill the front. Come on, I won't bite you. I might give you chocolate. Although I won't because it's over there. But Emily will pass it to you. Okay, so this is an essay that's in the issue of Tin House that's coming out in September. I'm not even going to say anything more about it. I'm just going to read it to you, and you're going to love it. Or not, depending if you have a sense of humor. Okay. A few years ago, God gave me a birthday present. Joey McIntyre was coming to Madison, Wisconsin. See, I told you. 4 days before my 27th birthday. My boyfriend and I bought tickets the day they went on sale, and when I looked at the stubs in my hand, I saw that we had just purchased numbers 1 and 2. At the height of their popularity, Joey McIntyre and his bandmates from New Kids on the Block sold millions of records and played sold-out concerts around the globe, and my brother's laughing so much, and I had the cheesy merchandise to show for it. I had NKOTB bed sheets, 2 sets of dolls, one each in concert outfits and streetwear, life-size cardboard cutouts, posters, trading cards, earrings, buttons, novelizations, comic books, and a coffee table-sized collection of photographs and a fanny pack. I was a blockhead. It wasn't that I thought they'd made perfect music. Some of the kids had better voices than others, let's be honest. But my Joey, he was good. During the band's golden years, Joey hadn't yet gone through puberty, and the high, clear tone of his voice was as beautiful as a choir of angels, if the angels happened to be from the Boston suburbs. I had seen Joey in person twice before. When I was 8 years old and at the height of my devotion, the band appeared in the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade, riding down the street on a float shaped like a red delicious apple. There are 2 photographs of me taken that day. The first is a blurry shot of the side of my face, my mouth hanging open in disbelief as I see Joey for the first time. I am unaware of the photographer, my mother, no doubt, or of anyone else near me, which must include everyone in New York City. Seeing Joey live in tender human flesh completely took my breath away, and I looked like Saint Teresa pierced by Joey's falsetto. The next photograph in the series shows me scowling directly into the lens after Joey has moved on with his float, as if in doing so he has broken up with me. The fact that he was gone and I knew he wasn't coming back ruined my mood for the rest of the day, if not the rest of the month. The second time I saw him was more than 10 years later when I was home from college. Joey was on tour supporting his first solo record, and I went to the concert alone after friends told me that if I wanted them to come, I would have to pay for their tickets and an additional sum in order to make it worth their while. True. I was surrounded by women my own age, all of us more or less adults, all of us more or less pretending we were there out of some nostalgic curiosity. When the lights went out to signal that Joey was about to come on stage, I screamed, losing my voice in the chorus of screams around me. The sound was completely involuntary and came from a part of my psyche so deep that I had genuinely forgotten that it was there. Before the show in Madison, I was consumed with anxiety. My best friend sent me heart-shaped New Kids on the Block earrings for my birthday, and I was wearing them, which made me feel both loyal and a little bit guilty. I didn't want Joey to think I was one of those girls who only loved him for his past. I was there for contemporary Joey, Joey 2007, whose tour blog declared that his self-released record was made up of jazz standards. There was a line outside the Orpheum stage door when we arrived. I am not used to being the thinnest person in the room, but Joey's fans seem to have increased in size, if not number. My boyfriend gave nods to the few other gentlemen who had escorted their ladies and then tried his best to blend into the side of the building. My fellow fans were, on the whole, female, white, and hovering somewhere in their 30s. Everyone had a camera in her lap and drummed her fingers nervously. I snagged two seats in the front row while Mike went to the bathroom. My rough head count clocked 80 people. The room fit 300. When I was in elementary school, at the apex of my devotion, I was one of only a small handful of devotees among my classmates. It was neither cool nor uncool to love the new kids. It was just my thing. Now I found myself in a room packed with heavy, suburban-looking women wearing flowery tunic tops and too much hairspray, women I would normally think that I had nothing in common with. We shared something so deep and profound that I wanted to throw my arms around each of them, which, after all, wouldn't have taken more than 15 minutes. I struck up conversations with everyone I made eye contact with, and we were all buzzing with excitement. Finally, a sisterhood. Mike came back looking stricken. "What happened?" I asked him. "There were 2 girls in the bathroom," he said, and one of them said, "I don't care if we have to double team him. I'm not leaving here without getting some." I bought him a drink. The house band, keyboards, drums, guitar, and upright bass, came on stage first. Joey then trotted out with a smile, treating the stage as though it were larger than 10 feet by 6 feet. He was dressed in a narrow black suit, complete with vest, and a matching fedora, stylishly askew. We swooned. Joey started the show with a Nat King Cole song. He danced around the stage, snapping his fingers and using the mic stand as a dance partner. The applause, much to my surprise, was tepid. This did not escape Joey's attention. "Google Nat King Cole," he told us. "It's good music for necking." Then he repeated the word necking a few times, realizing maybe that it sounded odd. I laughed. Joey was funny. This was something I hadn't seen before. In all the gloss and costumes, even the clasped, outstretched hands, there had been precious little human interaction. This Joey in front of me was more interesting. He had a gigantic, pulsing, throbbing chip on his shoulder. Joey's stage banter got weirder as the concert progressed. Despite the aforementioned heft of the audience, Joey seemed taken by our attractiveness. "Where were you back then?" he asked, referring to the group's heyday. "You were babies with enormous buttons." Joey did an impression of a baby with a Flavor Flav-sized button around its neck, weighing it down, complete with goo-goo gaga noises. The crowd laughed. We knew how big the buttons were. We'd all had them. "Why couldn't you switch places? Back then, you were babies. I couldn't do anything about it, and now I'm married." Marriage seemed to be a touchy issue for Joey. Before playing My Funny Valentine, he launched into the murky waters of extramarital temptations. "It's okay to look," he said. "You can get right up to the point, right up to the point." Here he used his hands to show his 2 palms nearly touching. "As long as nothing happens, it's not a sin." We all knew Joey was raised Catholic, the youngest of 9 children. We all understood where he was coming from. According to Wikipedia, Joey was the first person on MTV's show Cribs to enter his bedroom and say, "This is where the magic happens." During the ballads, women would shyly get up from their seats and walk in pairs down the aisles in order to get a better picture. While most of the women were in dressy tops and jeans, one woman wore a 1940s-style dress and danced in the aisle. Joey clearly liked her best. Every time someone took a picture, Joey would turn his face toward the camera without actually acknowledging the photo being taken. This seemed all well and good until Joey did the inevitable and sang "Please Don't Go, Girl," the song that launched a million first crushes, not to mention the song that I lip-synced at my 10th birthday party. Women gasped, then shrieked, then tried not to sing along at full volume. I took a 30-second video with my camera, swaying in time with the music. The high notes weren't as high, but the song seemed more plausible now, more authentic. Joey could have been singing to an actual person. He could have written the song himself. It's unusual for me as an adult who has zero interest in professional sports to be in a room surrounded by people who are deeply moved simultaneously, and I felt woozy with connection. Even after the New Kids on the Block song, Our Dearest and Dirtiest Wish Come True, some of my fellow blockheads were still not sated. Two women sitting at a table near the stage called out requests for more New Kids songs. Joey demurred, first politely, and then with more force. What do you want me to sing? Fucking Popsicle? Fuck you! This was when Joey started to swear at the audience. Popsicle is a song on the very first New Kids record, released in 1986 when Joey was 14 years old. Fuck you! Joey had seen his window of opportunity open and close. The crowd had turned. My boyfriend began to laugh, delighted that he was finally getting a show. I covered my mouth with my hands. Who were these girls who would taunt our Joey so? I would have politely clapped through Irish step dancing, through magic trips, through Tuvan throat singing. I wanted to muzzle the noisiest girls, to shut their mouths so that Joey would never know he hadn't been a smash hit. How many of you think I'm crazy? Joey asked. Several people in the audience raised their hands. The girls in the bathroom were right. Sexual encounters were there to be had if one understood the rules about temptation and intercourse. Joey was teetering on the edge, a place he'd likely been for years since his first solo record. He wanted us to love him. He needed us to love him, enough to put up with our middling applause for the songs he wanted to sing. That was when I realized that what I felt for Joey was empathy. I'd known him so long, more than half my life. It was my dolls and buttons, my voice screaming at the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade that made it impossible for him to find any other career path satisfying. On stage, Joey tried to block us out and nodded his head as the other musicians soloed, snapping his fingers in time with the music. He was done with us. I own a well-worn VHS copy of Hangin' Tough Live, a concert video shot when Joey was a prepubescent teenager. In it, he skates along the surface of interaction with the fans, smiling upwards towards the lights. He keeps his distance from the screaming crowd, even while performing his pelvic thrusts, leaving it to Donnie Wahlberg to really wink at the fans, to smile, to suggest he might like to take the prettiest girl backstage and have his way with her. Joey, on the other hand, looks like a child, his voice high and sweet, his movements gangly and boyish. At the time, Joey seemed to me to be a man, but he wasn't. I'd had no idea. Despite all of this, there was no way I was going to miss the meet and greet. The curtain had been pulled back, and we had all seen the wizard. No one was going to leave now. How many opportunities would I have to see Joey so close up? Surely he would recover. And true enough, 10 minutes after the show was over, Joey wound his way through the mostly empty theater and took his spot in the lobby. Every woman in the audience got online, and one by one, we got our pictures taken and our CDs signed. While we waited, I agonized over what to say once he was standing in front of me. I thought about telling Joey that his birthday remains my ATM PIN number, but decided that was too creepy. By the time Mike and I reached the table, my entire body was vibrating. I know I hugged him, and I remember the satin back of his vest and how blue his eyes were, but little else comes back to me. Even though I was aware that my reaction, compassion, affection, horror, pity, was complicated, the fact of Joey's physical body in my arms made me quiver with excitement. Still scrambling for something to say, I offered the cringeworthy, I even brought my boyfriend. Joey, generous in the moment, looked toward Mike and then back at me, already resigned to hearing such sentences for the rest of his life. "You really owe him," Joey said. I felt terrible. And yet, I had touched Joey McIntyre. Joey McIntyre had touched me. There was photographic proof. There was something about the longevity of my love for Joey that made it legitimate. Joey might be crazy, but I was too. My heartbeat didn't return to normal for several hours, maybe even a full day. Almost exactly a year after the concert in Madison, Joey and the rest of the New Kids appeared on the Today Show, officially announcing their reunion. The segment begins with Meredith Vieira and Natalie Morales standing outside the studio in the dripping rain. Thousands of fans line the metal barricades, many of them wearing New Kids t-shirts, hats, and the aforementioned dinner plate-sized buttons. A giant red curtain falls, and there are the New Kids, all 5 of them, just standing there like animals in a zoo. And what can we expect from the New Kids this time around? Meredith asks. 3 things, Joey says. The economy, healthcare, and job security. He shakes his head, still unable to believe that he has committed himself to live this life all over again. Long live the block. The hosts laugh politely and throw it back to Al Roker on location outside a motel in Memphis, Tennessee. It is also the 40th anniversary of Martin Luther King Jr.'s assassination. Roker has a brief, solemn exchange with Al Sharpton before going back to Vieira and Joey and the New Kids, still mugging for the crowd and each other. Joey's mouth is already open in the same practiced smile I'd seen him make over and over again. Danny's face has mysterious lines. Donnie's hairline is a memory. Jordan smiles dumbly and wanders slightly out of the frame. Did Joey really have to share a dressing room with Jordan Knight again? Some fates did seem more cruel than obscurity. The crowd, as zealous as ever, doesn't flinch. It can't be a coincidence that the reunion came soon after the concert I saw. In my imagination, it was that one night that broke the camel's back. Joey had seen the alternative route, the small crowds and tepid cheers, and he had made a choice. His was not going to be the life of the artist, with room for growth and change over time. Joey's life was going to be static, frozen in place. The money would be better, but I wasn't sure that was the issue. The decision that Joey had made was simple. It was better to be adored, no matter the cost. Thank you. Oh, thanks. I'm happy to answer questions. I work at a bookstore also, so I feel like I'm sort of doing double duty now.
Go for it.
If anyone has any questions, I would be happy to answer them. My ATM PIN number really is Joey McIntyre's birthday. It's not just Joey McIntyre's birthday, though, so you can't steal my wallet. I'm happy to answer questions about Joey, Boston suburbs, which I don't know. Yes, Emily.
Did you go to the reunion?
So that was the concert that I went to was in 2007. Joey did then join back up with the boys from Beantown. And yes, I went to see them at Radio City Music Hall, and it was amazing. And the best thing about the show at Radio City Music Hall, which was very different than the show in Madison, which was something that I should have anticipated but didn't, was the extremely large gay following. So where I was sitting, it was all gay guys who had stripped to the waist and were dancing and having the best time, and I was like, yes, of course. Like, obviously boys who were in love with him too, and maybe didn't want to say so in 1990, but like now they were like, that's right, I know all the words to these songs. Like, this is the best thing ever. So yes, I went to see that. I have not gone to see NKOTBSB, which is the New Kids on the Block Backstreet Boys mashup tour that's happening right now. I don't know if you're familiar. No, he's not familiar. Yes, Carolyn.
Tin House usually does theme issues. Is this the New Kids on the
What a wonderful question. It is a theme issue, and the theme is the ecstatic.
Ecstatic.
Yeah. Eden Lepucky, you had your hand up. Yeah.
Because I was a New Kids on the Block hater.
Yeah. You were cool. It's fine.
You didn't say NKOTB in your essay, did you?
I did.
Oh,
I
you
did.
I was just curious.
I alternated.
Okay, that's fine.
Yeah.
I was wondering if it was
I love that the questions actually really are all about Nick Zillabach.
How long did that take, this essay? How long did it take to write?
Well, when I was at this concert, I was aware that something was happening, like that something really strange was happening. And so I started taking notes. Mike really started taking notes. He was just laughing so much. Like, he couldn't believe his luck because he was like, why am I here? Why did you make me come? I can't believe you made me do this. And so then when something really weird started happening, he was like, oh, now I have something to do. I can laugh at this and take notes. Write down necking, things like that. But it took me a while. It probably took me about a year to write an essay, and then I just had it sitting around. And then when my friend who works for Tin House said that they were looking for ecstasy, I knew I had just the ticket. Any other? Yes, Jennifer.
How has your house swap in Los Angeles affected your work?
Is she? The woman that we're house swapping with actually came home. We're leaving tomorrow, so we're on the switching, on the moment of the switch. So I wondered if she would come, but she's not here. It had, I don't know. I mean, it's been really amazing to be in a new space. The house that we've swapped for is absolutely gorgeous, and there are different rooms for me to be in and to sort of test out. Also a swimming pool. I have not tried writing in the swimming pool. I did try reading in the swimming pool, which was not really easy to do. I don't know, is that something that people do? In my fantasy, that's something that people do all the time, but I couldn't figure it out. Yeah, still, even though it's it's going to get wet, I don't know. I was afraid. But I haven't been doing that much writing. I mean, I've been doing a lot of note-taking. So the house has been very good for note-taking. I'm writing down things about the leaves and movie stars, things like that.
So this is your new novel.
Yes.
And when can we expect it to be on the shelves at Skylight? Or just tell us all about it.
Thank you, Helen. So the novel that I'm working on is called Laura Lamont's Life in Pictures, and it will be out next fall, so fall 2012. And it's about a movie star in the Hollywood studio system. And it's been really interesting to do all this research. Helen and I were talking about this amazing library earlier, the Margaret Herrick Library, which is Karen Kellogg told me about. She basically saved my whole book from whatever it would have been if I had not known about that library. Yeah, no, that is true. I would have been like, yes, this is how it worked. I don't know. I would have made it up. But it's, so the book is about the Hollywood studio system. It starts in the late 1920s and goes all the way through the 1970s. So it's been really fun. I never knew research was fun. Other people knew this before me. I had no idea. Yeah.
Do you have a lot of clothing references in your book?
Yes. Yes, I do. Clothing, hats, furs, jewelry, shoes. Yes. Cars, accessories. Oh, that's the best part. The best part is going to the library and pretending to read things and just looking at the advertisements from 1935. It's like, oh my God, she was wearing that. Just Yes, clothes. Expect clothes. Any other questions?
Can you talk about your book, Other People We Married?
Yes. Other People We Married is my short story collection. It came out in January, at the end of January. And there are 12 stories in the book. I wrote them over a very long span of time. Eden and I did a podcast on Goodreads yesterday, and we were talking about this then, and I sort of hadn't really thought about it until we were talking about it, but that for me it's really clear which stories, because I spent so many years writing it, it's really clear to me which stories I wrote first and which came more recently, but I won't tell you which ones. They're not in order. No, they're not in chronological order. Sorry, I'm making faces at people. I realize now that everyone else can see me also. Yes.
With the novel, was there just a detail or an image or something that prompted you to write it?
Yeah.
Was there something that came to you?
Yeah. I don't know about all of you, but I think that the obituaries are always the best part of the newspaper. I love the obituaries. Because so rarely do you get to see the whole picture, to really read about someone's entire life, unless they're dead. And so I guess maybe a year and a half ago, it wasn't long ago, that I started working on this book because I read the obituary for Jennifer Jones, who was an actress who I didn't know. I mean, I knew some of her films, the titles of her films, but I hadn't seen any of them. But her obituary just really knocked my socks off because it was so sad and so dramatic. And so I copied it down, and I sort of just kept going back to it. And then I knew that's what I had to do, that I had to write a novel. It's not about her. I very purposefully have stayed away from, doing more research on her specifically and her films, because it's not that kind of book. Like it's not actually about her at all. It just sort of started with her life. And it tells the story of a woman, with roughly her years, her lifespan, but it's not actually about her at all, because that felt weird. That would be weird. I'm a fiction writer. I like to make things up, even though I wrote an essay.
Does your character wouldn't get nominated for the Academy Award the way?
She sure does. She wins too. She's good. Any other questions? Thank you guys so much for coming. Oh, yes, sorry.
Is it really going to be a reality show of your dad?
Yes, there is. So the question was, because I said on Twitter or Facebook or something that I was going to start a reality show with my father, who is a writer named Peter Straub, and you should all buy his books immediately. Yes. We were, in fact, talking about the different episodes today. Episode number 1, this is a major sneak peek, you guys. Nobody knows this. The first episode is going to be...
this is podcasted, right?
Shit. No, it's fine. Just kidding. The first episode is actually just going to be, it's going to be super helpful. It's going to be a tutorial how to tie a bow tie by Emma and Big Pete. That's it. That's all you need to know. Like, do you know how to tie a bow tie? I know you don't. My brother probably does. I don't know, do you?
I do not know how to.
See? Even my brother, my own flesh and blood. The world needs this. So yeah, you can look forward to Emma and Big Pete's Happy Hour. It doesn't have a name yet. Starting in August. On the internet. Thank you for coming. I could try to be less goofy, but it wouldn't really work.
You've been listening to the Skylight Books author reading series. Don't forget that you can check out this and all of our other great podcasts at www.skylightbooks.com. Today's music was provided by Fragile Gang. You can check them out at MySpace, Facebook, and the iTunes Music Store. Thanks for stopping by, and we hope to see you soon.